What's up, broadcasters? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Branding Banter, your promotional products podcast where you can get all the nerdy news you need to know about. My name is Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA.
And I'm Meg Erber, the CXO of the Bark and Buoy.
Sarah Goshgarian Unruh, Strategic Partnership Manager at Stalls.
And we're joined today by a special guest, Samantha Cates with Specter & Co. Samantha, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. I'm great.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Looking
having me.
forward to having you on and having a little bit of banter and talking about International Leadership Summit and how it relates to maybe NALC and all those good things. So excited to have you on and launch into the topic. But before we do that, do you want to give us like a brief introduction of yourself maybe and how you get started in the promotional products industry?
Oh, that would be very long, so we'll keep it really, really short.
Yeah,
I
please.
think I checked. This is my 29th year in promo. I started in college, just like as a part-time job. I saw, there was like a solopreneur that wanted some help during the day and all that with back in the old day when you used to have to put on a dry erase board what every order was and where it was. And so I was that girl. And then got onto the distributor side, graduated, did not end up doing what I thought I would do when I graduated college, stayed in promo because who wouldn't stay in promo? So went onto the distributor side, eventually owned my own distributorship, and then was independent. And then I've been through multiple of our now big players in the industry. So I was back in the day an Adventures in Advertising franchisee. I was an I Promote You affiliate. I think I was their 7th affiliate at some point. And then I left the industry for about 6 years to start something completely different. So I owned a school lunch company, like online. You could order like healthy organic meals delivered directly to your school. Did that for about 6 years, franchised it, and was able to kind of see that grow. And what ultimately sold that, and then was like, what do I do now? And that's when I got kind of recruited back to I Promote You to be their director of marketing and business development. So I did that for a bit. And then I moved to on the supplier side. So a couple of different stints as VPs of sales, Common SKU, and then ultimately Specter, where I was hired to be the chief sales officer and now president.
It's amazing. So
Yeah.
I feel like you and my wife would get along really well when it comes to school lunches and that whole
Is she
thing.
frustrated by it?
Oh, well, I mean, we've always like packed the kids.
Or just hates doing it?
Yeah. It's bad that the public school system is where it is when it comes to that. So
it's terrible. That's why
bad.
I started it. Terrible. And then what I noticed is a lot of the schools, there was like fast food, kids were getting Pizza Hut on Monday and Chick-fil-A on Tuesday. And I was in my organic mama stage, like hardcore, like cloth diapering. I mean, I went down a rabbit hole for a long time. And it's funny because I have 4 kids and I would make hundreds or thousands of lunches a day across our franchise system. But when it came to making my own kids' lunch, which my own kids' school didn't contract with our company, I was like, I don't want to make 4 more.
Yeah.
So it's what's it, type B or type A mom? Like which one is that?
I don't know. I was type A at work and then lazy when I got home. I was like, no. So my kids have been making their own lunches at a very young age because I was just tapped out. I was like, I'm not making another lunch. Yeah. But it was a real problem. I mean, parents hate it, right? They hated doing it. So I saw a problem and kind of said, I think there's an opportunity here. And it was so much fun. I love to cook. So that's kind of what got me into it. But probably also what got me out of it.
Yeah.
I was just tired of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't usually know about that, but that's a little hidden nugget in my background.
I love it.
I like it. All right. So do you guys want to ask about Specter & Co. or anything like that before we launch into the topic?
I love talking about Specter & Co. So let's do
it.
Yeah.
We were number 13, right? For PPAI.
We're 18. We're 18.
18. Sorry.
Yeah, but we moved up like a big old chunk. So we were 36 last year. And, and
so another
way
big
up
chunk.
to 18.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So that was fun. And I love that, just that whole process because it's just not a revenue. It's not just like, hey, the biggest, right? Because there's lots of those kinds of awards that give out like based on sales volume. And, for anyone that's been in a mid-sized supplier, it's kind of hard to compete. You're sort of, once you get to a certain revenue, you're sort of lumped with the big boys, but you're never going to be one of the big boys in the same time frame. So I love this top 100 because it looks at so many different things. And as someone on this our side of it, it just makes you feel so proud of the people at your company because you know they contributed to those things. It's not just about sales, making the most in sales, right?
Yeah.
So that was fun. Yeah, to see. And it's nice when you see your group with companies that you really admire and you're like, oh my gosh, look, we're right next to those guys, you know? So that was
Aw.
great. Yeah, we were really proud of that.
So what
Yeah.
was some of the major contributions this year well, what was some of the major, things that happened that contributed to that success, do you think?
We've been really busy. I mean, we had a big management change in October. So the founder of the company retired, Rob Spector, and we brought in. Well, our COO was moved to CEO, Alan Meinstein, and myself was moved from Chief Sales Officer to President. And we have an incredible executive and management team. So our CFO, Marla Ruttenberg, Alan, and I make up our executive team. And I think when you just work with people, I'm sure like the three of you get it on this call, when it just flows, like you just get
Mm.
each other and so every decision just feels like you have a warm hug around you all the time. You're not fighting against the grain or
Ugh.
swimming upstream. You support one another, you get each other. And so I think when your core kind of top team is just rowing in the same direction, that trickles down to the
I
management team
always
and
say
then to
that. It trickles down.
it does. It
Absolutely.
does.
Good for
It
you
does.
guys. Good for
So it
you
was
guys.
tough.
That's
I mean, Rob
amazing.
was such a force and had been with the company since he founded it. And it was, we have everyone from management team to the factory worker who's known him for so long. And it's such a legacy to try to live up to. And so we really spent maybe the first 4 months on culture of how do we rebuild culture because we'd gone through some tough times. Like, we did open a Vegas facility. We subsequently closed it. It was a very difficult time for the company, and you take risks. They don't always work. But the industry as a whole, I think, was hurting. Sales were kind of flat at the end of last
Mhm.
year. And then on top of that, you're in these new roles and you don't totally know where you fit in. And so we decided to really attack culture, mission, vision first. And I give Alan so much credit for this. He's such a visionary this way. And we just went to work on it. And I think part of the end of last year was like revitalizing, and you could just see people really buying into it, buying into what we were about, buying into what we were staying true to, not losing so much of our past. And I think that's important, of like staying true to what you love about the company, but you also have to evolve and you have to bring in change. And being patient with those who don't love change, I think, is an important lesson. And Alan did something so cool. He did a coffee talk with the CEO with every single employee individually in the whole company, each
Oh.
one from top to bottom, and then took notes of what you would want to start doing at Spectre, what you want to stop doing, and what you'd want to continue doing. And he did each one on a post-it note. And our conference room now is still lined with 300 post-it notes
Wow.
from every conversation that he had. And it reminds us of what we're here to do. We're here to serve them. We're here to make their lives better. We're here to make their livelihoods better. We're here to serve our customers better. So that was what I love talking about. And I think the rest kind of became easy. Once you get the culture set and once you get happy people working and they feel like they're working towards something, much more transparency. We did not have that before. We really upped our technology. I think all of those things and then from there, our salespeople were re-energized. We completely
Mhm.
changed ourselves from a product perspective. And our customers will say, like, welcome back. Like, we've missed you. And this has been such a refreshing thing to see. And so overall in the market, we just hear great vibes, really, really great vibes about what we're doing. It's being noticed. And so it's nice that PPAI did too.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be
Absolutely.
recognized when you put in the work. And then April 4th came and we all got hit with those tariffs, and everything's like, okay, I guess we're gonna stop here for a bit and try to figure this out. So
Yeah.
I didn't realize I would become a tariff expert in my new role, but I can add that to my resume now. So that's cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's
So
like
speaking of
PPE. Like, who knew
tariffs,
that we would all become PPE experts,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh,
right?
that's right. You're
You know,
totally right. Yeah, you're
it's,
totally right.
it's
Evolve and adapt.
yeah, it's another
Hmm.
kind of pivot move. I think so. At NALC, I've listened to Alan speak, and to your point, I think one of the things that he said that it just stuck with me, and it's so rare to hear your story of what you talk about from a leadership perspective and the culture and how you're looking at all of your employees. It's just not something that you hear very often about, of that that change. The words he said were transparency for trust. And I thought, gosh, those are really big words, and how important it is for that transparency to exist from a leadership perspective, that you're, as an employee, you're being heard. And that's huge, right? Like, and for someone to
Huge.
be able to speak up and say, hey, like, I love the people I work with, but I don't really see directionally where I'm going from a career perspective. I want to stay here. How do I stay here? Here's my goals. Can you help me meet them? Huge.
Yeah.
And
I love
also,
that.
yeah, it just hit home with me because I feel like that connection to the people is huge. So I'm
Yeah.
glad it was represented this year for you
Yeah,
guys.
he does. We make this little joke because he showed this graphic to us, and I learned a lot about Canadian geese, as
Ah,
a Florida girl. Although I was born in Canada, but I didn't know about Canadian geese. And he showed this
Wawas.
image of, you what?
Aren't they Wawas? Isn't that like
They're
a Wawa or
Yeah,
something?
yes, that's their logo actually, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yep.
So they fly in like this V formation. This is all Alan, by
Yep.
the way. So such an Alan graphic. And so, they can travel like 1,500 miles in a day, which is insane, right? And the way they do it is the lead, if you know all this, stop me, but the lead goose is the fastest one, but he gets the lift from all of the other geese that are in the formation to help the wings like get more lift. But then when that goose gets tired, it goes to the back of the line and the next one takes over. And so he says, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we now just like the Canadian goose is like our like mantra as a team, because you can do a lot by yourself, but you can do so much more when
Absolutely.
everyone is kind of with you and believes in the vision. And so that's what we've been up to. A lot of really exciting things to come, like a lot. And the tariffs were just a I call it like a speed bump that we just have to figure out how to get over. Yeah, we
Yeah.
just have to figure out how to get over. And it just like COVID, it made us stronger and in some ways. And there's no way around price increase. It like these things are going to, there's just nothing you can do, right? You can't absorb it. You just, we're not, no one's being greedy. I haven't seen any greed in this industry at all. People are just trying to kind of like, we're going to make it. We're going to do what we need to do to kind of keep going. And so hopefully the end consumer is feeling that way too, and we'll pay a few more bucks for that water bottle or for that, that journal or whatever. But not sacrificing quality. There is no shrinkflation going on here at Spectre, probably the opposite. And it's just doing the best job that we can to navigate that and resource and move different countries. And so we've done a really good job, I think, with that.
Well,
That's
it's nice that
incredible.
that time frame only lasted for roughly 6 weeks, because it was definitely tumultuous for that time frame. But now that we've reached the temporary deal, and then now a more permanent deal, it makes things a little bit more
I
civil
know.
again. So
I
it's
know.
not.
I found myself like a week went by and we didn't have any, emergency meetings. And I was like, I'm kind of bored today.
yeah,
Like, what are we supposed to
That's the
talk about if we're not
post-COVID.
changing our pricing for the 400th time? Like, what do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
Jeff, had you ever heard anything about the goose? I just have to like hang on to the goose thing for a second. Did you know any part about that?
Yeah, I knew about the V formation and all that.
So, have you
I'm
seen
I'm
the
going to go
wild
back to
robot?
my.
I was just gonna say that.
I was like, that's how I knew it was the wild
We just-
robot. I know, Sam, all of your kids are like much older now. And
Yes.
so, you don't get back into animation, but when you have a 4-year-old thrown into you, now you watch animated movies all
So
over
so
again.
cute.
And
I'm throwing it back to my childhood. Wild
Oh.
Robot's great. My kids love it. But I'm throwing it back to my childhood. You don't remember the Mighty Ducks?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Come on now.
Yes. Yes.
I
The
I
Flying
forgot about
V.
that.
That's so true.
Totally.
That's so true.
But it's
Yeah.
still not as good as the Canadian goose story.
No,
Yeah.
it's huge. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great motivational story
it's a
for
huge
sure.
motivation story.
Yeah,
Like, I
it's
love
also just very Alan. Like he's so great at that. And I sometimes miss the feeler side. We just did a whole session on Myers-Briggs at our sales meeting
Oh,
this
yeah?
weekend. Yeah, because I'm like super into it and very nerdy
Me
about it.
too.
And
It's
Yeah,
cool.
you
we
are?
could-
Okay.
We could
can
have a
chat
whole
after.
other conversation about
I'm
disc
like,
personality profiles and
I
Myers-Briggs.
love it. I love it. So I
feel like
conducted a session
we
about
should
it.
do one.
You
All
should
like
do
us,
one.
and maybe bring in another guest and then talk about it, and then
You
yeah,
should. You should.
that'd
So
be
I ran
fun.
I ran a session about it at the meeting actually with one of our sales reps who's happens to also be my daughter and is very into it with me and is Sarah's mentee. So it all comes full circle. So we've always really been into this Myers-Briggs thing. And so I sometimes miss the feeler thing because I'm not the feeler, and Alan is a feeler, and so it's really cool to be like president and CEO with a feeler and a non-feeler, because sometimes I'm like the logic, and then he's like, but let's ask everybody what they think, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Aw, I
But that's
love that.
important that, and then to your point of like why you did this, your strengths and your weaknesses, so you can lean
Yes.
into each other, which is
Yes,
huge.
yes. And it's such a good combo. I mean,
Yes.
on both ways. Like, so I just feel, really, and it is important to sort of know yourself and be like, these are my blind spots, right? These are the things I can do
Absolutely.
better. But yeah, so it's just, anyway, if you want to do that episode, I will definitely be listening because I love it so much.
Okay.
Yeah, we should
Awesome.
definitely
Well,
consider
We
that.
should do that. That's a
No,
great
Yeah.
idea.
but we
So
should
I know,
probably talk about international.
yeah, I was going to
Oh
say we
yeah,
should
that's
talk
right.
about the
Oh, okay. We're
International
not here to
Leadership
talk
Summit.
about birds and personality testing.
Oh yeah, because
Okay.
we were
I
talking
know
about
everybody
bugs
just started
too.
talking about
We
bugs.
haven't even
So,
talked about bugs yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to see my
We'll
bug
just talk
bites?
about- So now it's going to have to be branding banter and bugs and birds.
There you
what we're
go.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
So International Leadership Summit. What would you like to tell us about it first and foremost? I mean, is this the first time that they've done the International
Mhm.
Leadership Summit?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
So I to full disclosure, I had not really heard about it or was planning to go. I was
Mhm.
in Italy for a week with my family, and about 4 or 5 days before I left, Alan sent me the link to the conference, and he's like, I think this is something that would be good for us to attend. And I was like, this looks amazing, but like, when are I didn't look at the date. I was like, wow, Brussels, and like, how are we going to figure that out? And I said, wait a minute, like, I'm flying home from Italy on Sunday, and this starts on Sunday, on the same Sunday in Brussels. It must be like a 5-second flight. How far could Italy be from Brussels? I looked at a map, a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but easy. So I was able to change my flight. I was really excited. So I feel, you know, super lucky that it kind of worked out that way, because I don't know if we had been in North America, if we could have made it work. So I changed my flight, flew to Brussels, about an hour and a half flight, in case you want to know, easy peasy. And so that's how I ended up being able to go. And so the um, ILS is the combination of PPAI and the newly formed EAC. So it's the European kind of council. And if those of us who know, there's always been like the German Promotional Product Association and the French, and so it's Italian, and they've all been kind of disparate. And this is the time that they're kind of bringing them together. Like, why are we all doing these different initiatives when we're also part of the EU, and maybe we should be kind of coming together? So I think that was cool that this was the first time they've done this, and it makes so much sense that the Europeans kind of come together
Yeah.
under one umbrella. I was humbled and also like slapped in the face of the American ego that we are called PPAI and we are not international, right? Like, they're more international. Like, coming together makes us international, and so it's like, oh, we're PPAI. Why did we take the I? But now it feels very much like we are. Like, it felt so united, and it felt like we're kind of bringing parts of the world together. And so now the internationals kind of like makes sense, to
Legit.
me in my
Yeah.
mind. Yeah. So that was cool. And it has been a long time since I walked into an event like that, and I really didn't know anyone. And I don't remember
That's
the last time
humbling.
you all felt that way, but it was like, it took me back like 15 years, when I started to get my first opportunity to go to an NALC kind of event. And I was like, oh, these people are so
Yeah.
intimidating and smart. And then they asked me to sit on a panel, and then my head blew off of, I am not at this level. Like,
Going
this is
that way.
imposter syndrome all the
Oh,
way. Who
no.
canceled? Why are you calling me? Um,
Everybody's
so
full of it.
it was
Nobody knows
cool.
what they're doing. So I'm sure,
Yeah. I
there's
mean,
we all have imposter syndrome. And
there are
I think
people
you
who
of
knew what
all
they were
people,
doing.
I mean, you made lunches for 6 years. So I'm telling you,
True. I raised 4
yeah,
kids. I feel like, all
yeah,
right, I got this,
that's
Sure.
all the
I
experience
got
you
this.
need.
So that was, yeah. So that was kind of the entry point to that was, I was sitting on the panel, and I did know a couple of people, certainly some of the PPI people. I didn't actually, it was my first time really meeting Drew,
Okay.
and getting to spend time with him. And I just like, oh man, he's so good.
He
I
is.
was
I
just
like him a lot.
so thrilled to spend that time with him. And I was so impressed. Like, I really walked away a big fan. Big fan of Drew. And obviously you have, Denise. I mean, it's just beyond impressive. Like, you just like, I vow to
They're
you
my
all
Always.
things. I'm sorry if I'm using a paper towel and I'm going to throw it away. Please don't judge me. Um, she's
I
just
love her.
terrific, and
She is.
Ellen was so terrific, and so I got to spend time with some of those folks that I just never really, you go to NALC, you don't really get to talk to the PPAI people,
No.
No.
right? Like that's
No.
sort of like, oh, that's not really why I'm here, and that was cool. So I sort of clung to their legs a little bit when I first got there. I was like, I don't know anyone, and then
I know you.
I got a chance, yeah, and everybody spoke English, thank goodness. And, also humbling of like, why do they know 9 languages and I know like 1.5? Um, so yeah, so that was kind of how it started. And I was the very first panel, so also intimidating. But wow, is it cool just to kind of talk about the state of like what's going on between North America and Europe and listening to these really impressive other
Yeah, I was gonna say,
panelists.
what was your panel about? What was your panel about?
Yeah, it was kind of like giving this broad view of like what the economic climate is, how are people feeling about things, and it was general enough that I could sort of take my own unique direction of like what I saw happening and how people feel about the tariffs. What really struck me though is even in the dinner conversations and things is that the Europeans really had this feeling that Americans don't like them, and like everything that's happening in our administration that's affecting them, they basically are like, you all must feel this way, and we're like, No, no, like it's not even political. Like even if you agree with a policy, like, we don't feel negatively towards the Europeans.
Anybody.
Like it was
Yeah.
there was a real like certainly the first day I felt this first dinner of like, oh, you like us, like you're not mad at us. You do
Huh,
want to support the Europeans. Like so there is a bit of misinformation, I think,
huh.
going on in the international community of confusing policies that have made the world kind of feel alienated from America. I've definitely felt that. And I felt like it was my job to right those wrongs in that room of like, wait a second, that's not how we feel. So um that was kind of I don't know, I'm just rambling on about it, but that was
No,
sort of
it's
how I got
okay.
there and kind of how I felt and where some of the topics kind of were.
So
Were
how
there
would you
any
compare it to like an NALC is probably what the majority of the listeners, right, may have attended before. So if you look at
Mhm.
an NALC and now you look at this International Leadership Summit and you're trying to gauge, obviously you open up the spectrum in order to talk more international and have more international leaders in a room.
Spectrum.
I know that you caught it.
I saw what you did there.
But how do how would you compare the two? Topic
It
discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like it's a good question. It felt run like an NALC in a bit, like that kind of cadence that you're sort of used to of like
Mhm.
panelists and some sessions and keynotes and then a breakout and bar time and dine around time, but it also felt very intimate. And I think because it was everyone's first time and a lot of people didn't know people. Um, it was very warm and very welcoming. And not that, I mean, NALC is my favorite event of the year. I mean, it is too, but you have your besties when you go to NALC. You
Yeah.
have your gang, and
Yeah.
nobody had a gang here. A couple of like the German companies, you could tell they were pretty close, but there were, people from all 13, I think, or 16 countries, and lots of people didn't know anyone. And so you were more forced to have conversations about new things and new people and genuinely wanting to get to know people, where at NALC we already know everybody. Like most cases we know people's spouses names and kids names, and so
Yeah.
it's more like a family reunion at NALC, and this felt a bit more like a
Networking?
networking high level
Yeah.
business conference.
That's
It was
awesome.
also more formal. People dress more formally in Europe than we do, so it was suits and ties. And I mean, I didn't. I was in Italy, so I was not as prepared. I was like, I wore jeans and a suit jacket, and I was like, ooh, nobody else is wearing jeans. I bought the shoes in the airport on my way over because I didn't pack heels, to go with
Yeah.
it. I wasn't thinking about
Mm.
going. But I actually kind of liked the formality. It felt like it elevated us, I think, a bit. And I think we've all gotten a little bit casual, and while it's comfy, it's different than when you're in a power suit, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I was really struck by how open and warm and friendly people were, and how much they were all there for like the same reason. How do we partner together? How do we learn from each other? How do we help educate what's going on in our respective countries? And how do we just make this industry better? There was a lot of emphasis on sustainability, um, that was the other big takeaway. I mean, man, Europe is so far ahead of us
Yeah.
when it comes to that, almost like embarrassingly so.
Oh, yeah.
When I told them that we have customers in parts of the country that don't ever ask us about that. That's not even on the radar. Like eco is like not interested. I mean, they almost fell out of their chair. Like they couldn't believe that that could happen. So I think we need to look to them, to the future of where that is, and we need to get there faster. So that was a huge takeaway. Um, the other, I think, was, how do we kind of bring these two parts of the world a bit closer together? There's so
Yeah.
much happening that we shouldn't be duplicating. We could be bigger. We could all benefit from better partnerships. I mean, you know how it is on the supplier side. You're making product and you're buying whatever quantity you can kind of bring in that's going to support your market. But can you leverage that better and service the world better if you're not just staying in your little silos and those kinds of things. The third biggest one is that the tariffs and the economy have had a big impact on them as well. And they're, one, a bit insulted and hurting, and two, they feel like their economy will probably grow a lot more now
Mm.
because they're going to be working together and they're going to be making deals with China and they're going to be making deals with other countries that we're a bit alienating ourselves from. So they see a good future. Like this is a time to invest in Europe. They felt very strong, but they also are sad because they love America. And I think they want to make sure like it's still safe to work together. It's still positive to work together. So a lot going on at that time, right? The tariffs hadn't been really finalized or anything yet. So that was the main things that were discussed: the economy, the tariffs, partnerships, and sustainability.
Wow, that's a lot.
It was a lot. It was a
I'm
lot.
glad.
Yeah.
Well, even though we didn't get to be there, unfortunately, I think that you did an
Next
excellent
time.
recap, and like seeing what's really important overseas and internationally is what's important here. But I don't think that everyone's on that same, same. I don't want to call it a bandwagon, but I'm not on the same train yet. But I think just got to keep pushing through and spreading the word and spreading the awareness and talking about it. And leaders like Denise and Drew and they're the ones that are setting the bar here. So I think we just need to keep following in those footsteps and really just
Yeah,
trying
it
to make
was
this industry a better
eye-opening.
place. Yeah.
And I would encourage others to go only because it just really broadens your mind of like
Yeah.
what's going on in different places. We can be so looking down. I don't know that there's a huge business benefit. Like it's not like I left there with like orders or partnerships, or it was more, first of all, supporting the great work PPI does and want to support this initiative. And then second, just like, wow, there's work we can do, right? To be a better steward of the environment for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, any other like major takeaways? Because I knew you said one of the major things or reasons that everybody went was mostly for how we could work together. Were there any like resounding sort of answers to that question? I mean, other than obviously, I know you said sustainability, and they're much further ahead than we are when it comes to that. Was there anything else that sort of leapt out at you as a like an epiphany?
I mean, your um, counterparts were there
Mm-hmm.
and spoke. Actually had a whole session just on headwear, and that was one of my favorite sessions of just how they approach the US market, where they see things going. Like I really learned a lot, and I think there's great partnership opportunities. I think I don't know if everybody went there thinking that, but we're like a mid-sized supplier and we do ship a lot internationally, but we don't have a footprint there. So for suppliers like us, I would really encourage going because I think there are opportunities. I was talking with one of the heads of your company, for instance, and he's like, we should be working together more, right? We should figure you don't sell hats and we don't sell hard goods. And so those kinds of discussions just spark ideation and kind of where the future of the industry should go. So I didn't go there with that in mind, but I kind of left there of like, there's probably a lot more that we could do to be better partners and to share ideas. We're members of something that's called the Crown Group, which is already like an international sort of consortium of almost like a buying group, but not a buying group of companies, of suppliers in different continents. So there's like a supplier in each continent that's in the group, and we get together for like monthly calls and share things and share ideas. And I talked about that in my panel, that this felt like a live way bigger version than something like that. Like we all need support, we all need advice, and getting a global perspective was really amazing. So that is a broad reaching takeaway of just, it's not just like an American view on things or a North American view on things. We need a more worldwide view on things, especially now when we're all counter sourcing and moving away from China. And
Yeah.
like, what are the countries we're not aware of? Who's making what? Where are they making it? How are they making it? Where are the quality standards? Where are you going to source? That's more important than ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've talked about, I think a big buzz word for this year even is that like you keep turning around, and one of the biggest news is from ASI or whatever is global expansion of different suppliers, to your point. So I think there's a lot of other pieces that are kind of melded into that I think,
Mhm.
like I instantly started thinking, where are they sourcing all of their products from? You know, if sustainability is such a big thing from a European standpoint, where really is their focus? Or are they still buying as much from China as what we are from an industry perspective? And so it's just like those types of things. So I think it expands. I feel like we could go into a whole nother episode and continue to talk about
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are like way over time.
You
at
will
this
just have to go yourselves, and
Yeah.
you know, everyone should
There we go.
experience it. And Brussels is, I mean, the fries are worth the flight. So I can't recommend the fries enough.
Yep. I understand, because I too just came back from an international trip. And so we spent
Yeah.
in Greece. And so Nakos is like, you know, one of the islands there. And that's where they're the second largest island country, because it's part of Greece, that where the potatoes come from. And so the fries are
Oh
like
my gosh.
amazing. And
We
so
could have an episode on the fries. I'm telling you, we could
1,000%.
have.
I
I
could just
love
take
French
you guys on
fries.
a fried travel.
I
It's
cannot with the
just,
fries.
yeah,
And the mayo is not anything like mayonnaise in this country. It's not even close. I
no.
don't know
Right.
what they're doing over there, but if we could just have that, we don't need to sell promo anymore. We could all just sell mayo and
Yes,
fries, and we
there we
could
go.
retire.
You
Yeah.
had
So
you had me until you said mayo.
I am not a mayo girl. This is like, that's
We
my
will-
I think
least
you've
favorite.
officially gone 30
It's
seconds over our time limit.
it's worth it. It's worth it.
It's worth the fries and the mayo.
All right, fair enough. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining us, Samantha, and giving us a little
Sure.
bit of insight on the International Leadership Summit, because I know it's something that we sort of talked about when we first heard about it. So we were glad to get somebody on to sort of give us that perspective, that was able to be there and sort of, you know, give us a little inside scoop. So hopefully next year, you know, more people will know about it and be able to attend, and you know, it'll be just something that continues to grow and move forward. So
Yeah, I had a lot of people ask me about it, so I do think next year it will grow, which
Good.
would be
Awesome.
great. Yeah.
All right, well,
Yeah. Thank you all.
until next time,
Thanks.
guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.